So very good.
Apologies, I forgot to hit the record early. I got
That's okay.
mentally sidetracked.
The election announcements, and of course, September 24th, fall Brookline. So
Yeah, be there and be square.
Nice it is today. I mean, beautiful fall. I was talking to Tom a little bit before the meet tonight, a couple weeks back, and he was telling me that in Chicago it was actually a pretty mellow summer, not quite as hot as the usual, while we were dry and very hot. And after the 3 days of rain, we are now it's like, what happened? Bring on the apple cider donuts, pumpkins, pies, and dig out those blankets. It's getting a little chilly.
So, it's a great time to come because there's the apple picking.
Yeah, it's a nice time to come to because you're exactly right. It's hopefully nice and dry and sunny and not too hot. It's good for tailgating. Anybody thinking about a tailgate? So come on down.
Right. I think that's all the key announcements I can think of. Anyone else have anything to add before we hand off to our guest, Tom?
God save the Queen.
Yeah. It's sad.
Regardless of what your opinions are, I mean, just an amazing, what a remarkable run, and make a good book. So, in any event, September 8th, here we are. Winter is calling. So maybe come up to Brookline and get some project radios to take down in the basement for keep yourself warm by the furnace there, and you can fire up the soldering iron and put on a high tube count set to warm up the air and stock up on your fall and winter projects. Well, anyway, Tom Kleinschmidt from the Antique Radio Club of Illinois has kindly agreed to join us. He's been on before with us a little while back, and post-COVID, Radio Fest is back, which is the big Midwestern event for the radio collector, seller, and full of all kinds of talks and seminars and discussion, and a ton of radios for sale from what it looked like, and a lot of very good stuff too, Tom. I don't know what you're finding as far as I'd say my last handful of meets since things have kind of reopened, I've seen a lot of very good sets, things that I was surprised, because I thought a lot of the old unique stuff had kind of vanished and had been all sold through or was too coveted to come to a swap meet, but we've seen a lot of good stuff up here. So maybe you could just give us a quick recap of how the foot traffic was and what your opinion of the event was, and what was your opinion of the quality of sets for sale. There sure look like some good ones in the photo. I think we're going to enable his audio. Tom, you might need to turn on your mic.
Unmute my audio. Does that help?
There we go.
All right.
Welcome aboard.
Well, thank you. As far as Radio Fest goes, it was a smaller event than our last one in 2019, but they do go in waves. We've, pre-internet world, it was a week-long event almost, and now it's a day and a half, and has been for a while. Friday night, we have an auction, usually some pretty high-end stuff. And Saturday morning to midday is the swap meet. We have a big donation sale. A lot of people bring a lot of stuff to donate, and I handle that, so I actually didn't get to walk around the flea market. I did see stuff within my own kind of purview from where I was standing. We had a good turnout of people. We made a couple of changes, nothing significant, but from the viewpoint of changing the general flavor of the thing. But we used to have reserved parking spaces, and that was kind of an artifact of when we were at venues with limited parking and you had to make sure everybody had a spot. We're now at a venue with 175 parking spaces, so it's kind of irrelevant. So we did it more Hamfest style, where we just said, show up, grab your spots, and people, paid for the number of spots they were going to take, and everybody did a nice job with that, and they all gave me positive feedback on that piece. The auction was smaller than it's been in the last couple of years from a volume viewpoint, and the sell-through, I guess to be a smart ass, I think the audience was asleep. There's a few things that everybody perked up on, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that just, went for whatever it went for, and so on. But in our world, because real estate here is so expensive, I'm sure it's the same in Boston. We either break even or don't break even based on the auction. And of course, this year was a loser from the viewpoint of money, but on average over the last 20 years, we've been slightly positive. And as Greg mentioned before you got on, Paul, and you and I discussed how wonderful the weather was in Chicago, except for the Saturday of the swap meet, which had 104 temperature humidity index. And fortunately, nobody keeled over. There was no paramedics or anything like that. But we had a lot of people I've run across that said, yeah, I didn't go to the swap meet because it was too hot. And so that caused two things to happen. We had a little bit smaller crowd, and we had a lot of people packing up at 10:30 in the morning for obvious reasons. So we actually moved up our donation sale to noon from the normal 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock kind of time frame, just to get things going. So that's kind of the highlights and the lowlights. We had two talks this year, one on software-defined radios, and the other one on setting up your workshop for restoring radios, because we have some new members and they're wanting to know all the things that those of us have been doing it forever kind of know inherently. So we're trying to make sure we have, I'll call it mentorship type of talks and things.
Well, that's good. Well, that's a good deal. The group down in New Jersey do a repair clinic type thing, and I think their hope is, they open up space periodically and will encourage people to bring in a set. If you want to have one of their experts take a look at it, maybe get it fixed for you. But I think the goal there is as well, maybe they can attract some new people in the door, and especially if they find out that well, some things are big projects and require some skill and some work and a lot of time, but there are other aspects of getting something functional that are not as incredibly hard as a lot of people might anticipate, before they get into the hobby. How's the membership of your club in general? What do you guys know?
We've had an uptick now that we're having swap meets again. I mean, we kind of slacked off for a while. The other thing we did, which paid off, I think, is we still have a full roster of current and former members. And we sent out a mailing for Radio Fest to everybody on that list. And a number of people who had been out of the club for a number of years, pre-COVID for a while, joined back up and came back in.
Well, that's good. Very good.
So, we run, I'm going to give you a round number, about 150 members, I'm going to say. My email blast list, which I think you're on.
Yep.
That's up to 765 people now.
Very good.
Wow.
That's really good. We've kind of made it where there's very, very little that you have to be a member to do, because we're trying to encourage participation. So that's why there's a lot of people. That 760 obviously mostly aren't members, but there are people all over the country that are interested in coming into our Zoom meetings, or when we're advertising something for sale. I guess if they're super motivated, they could figure out how to get it out of the Chicago area. But your comment earlier about good sets popping up, we go in waves with being contacted by the general public from people with either estates or people downsizing.
Yep.
It seems to be statistically, it's always a woman who's the daughter or the niece of the person who passed away and says, how do I start with this pile of stuff?
How to, Tom? How to?
It is very, because we, and they'll either call, I get them, sometimes John gets them through our Facebook page, our president, because obviously he's the president, and, you'll see the message pop up, and yes, that is, it's the, I don't know, I guess we do die off faster than the women.
Well, but I think to your point about good sets popping up, they're coming out of these collections where guys had them for decades.
Yes.
We had, I don't know if you know who Joe Halser was, but Joe was a huge collector of high-end sets. He has a zillion Scotts, and all
Oh,
kinds of stuff, and he went in for some surgery and didn't come out.
oh
We
no.
weren't expecting him to pass away, but that's what happened. So his collection is going to be slowly sold off. The other advantage we have in the Chicago metro area is, we were kind of the Silicon Valley of the 1930s. Most of the radio companies were here. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff here. People on the West Coast discuss how they can't find things because, well, not everything migrated out there. But some of the things that they have is quite unique. I mean, I talked to a friend. I don't know if you're familiar with the K-Part sets with the flip over record changers, but the 400 series is what we see all around here. And he actually made a 500 series, which has multiple power amps and electronic crossovers and all kinds of crazy stuff. And you find those where the money was in California. And I'd never seen one around here. And so it had to do with where the market was. Scott's biggest showroom was in Los Angeles. So I think, that tells you a little bit as well. So I know I've just recently been contacted by people with one radio. They're either downsizing or whatever. And we had a panic pickup this last night because the closing date on the house got moved up to today. So so we have got the world's largest radiola. I don't know quite what we're going to do with it, but it's a radiola 30 with a power amp and a speaker in it. And the power amp uses a 210 tube. And it's a monster. I didn't believe how big it was until it showed up because one of our members lived nearby where it was, and it barely fit in his Jeep Liberty on its back. We had to kind of do some contortions to get the legs to swing out through the back door and so on.
Nice.
And it is a pretty good hernia too to move it. And, so that's in our storage locker right now. And 20s radios, as you guys know, are a tough sell most of the time. But again, back to the gentleman, I think it was Dick that made the comment about we don't want to see it hit the dumpster. So I will figure out what we're going to do with it. But it doesn't fit in your average apartment. So
it's an interesting thing because it's great that people will, especially now, it makes you wonder, pre-internet, what did they just do with that stuff? Off to the dump or the curbside, and then it was up for somebody who might be the junk man or whoever to discover it. But
well, there was a number of our members.
First, we get all these inquiries as to what we can do with stuff, but most of us are kind of have the seams bulging as well. But for something especially like that is a great piece, to have it saved is kind of nice.
Yeah, well, like you guys, I'm doing it on behalf of the club, so, and I'm the contact for the emails and the phone calls. And so most of, the calls are kind of evenly split to how do I get my radio fixed and the how do I sell it / what's it worth. And
Yep.
A lot of people couch the I want to sell it when they really want to just get a valuation, which wouldn't be any different from me either way. But I guess, they feel that culturally they have to be a little deceptive. So I just let that slide. That's kind of the long and the short of it. But we had a nice event. People seemed happy.
Hey, Tom, would you like me to I could put up share my screen with the photos that were taken at your event? Maybe if you want to do any commentary, I can share my screen.
All right, as long as it doesnn't turn to what I did on my summer vacation, everybody falls asleep. So
no, these are the ones you post on your website. So
yeah, but see, it's optional on my website. You're forcing everybody to watch it here.
There we go. Exactly.
We can go through it faster or slower.
All right, so we're at a facility that's run.
How the venue goes, so
yeah, we're at a venue that's run by the Shriners. They rent out their facility and their parking lot to us, and on the same campus there is a Hilton Garden Inn, so you can walk right to the hotel. And so there are 3 parking lots, and this is the westmost parking lot where the swap meet is, and that tent is where you checked in, and if you wanted to become a member and all that kind of stuff, that's right there.
Got it. There must be some of your members.
Welcome to the inside of the tent. There's the inside of the tent.
Yeah,
there's a swap meet. And the guy in that picture, by the way, is Nick Tillich. He's the president of the Wisconsin Antique Radio Club.
Oh, okay.
So if you know, if you have to look up, you get called into the police department, you have to identify him. That's what he looks like.
Well, he's
Some
got
nice
some good
looking
stuff.
pieces
Yeah,
there.
he's got
Just
a True Tone and an RCA 6 tube with the L-shaped dial glass, a Majestic. I'm going to guess a Firestone maybe to the left of it. Or a
I can try
Stormwater.
and zoom in a bit more and see if we can.
A couple of novelty sets, a little white.
There's a Farnsworth kind of in the middle. That's the wooden one with the
That's
two
the
kind of X's. That's a Farnsworth. To the left of that, you have the Dahlberg speaker radio, the hospital. The one that interests me, although it doesn't look like it has a radio in it, is the case, the wooden case to the right of the cathedral over at the very left there.
Wait, this one here.
Yeah, it looks like either a case or kind of one of those off brands, which naturally with RPC Chicago, there were all kinds of stuff. That's a beauty and a rare one.
Yeah, look
Well,
at
there was a
the
gentleman who was selling those cabinets at one of our Wisconsin meets, and he had a bunch of them. They were NOS. They never were used for anything.
Interesting.
I suspect that's what Nick has there.
I wonder
Interesting.
where he got his hands on those, huh?
I'd like to the early crystal radio from the 60s. It's a Remco, and that's the blue radio right in front center. 1960s Remco crystal radio.
Oh, okay. Good call. Look at that. Everybody's knowledge and
Good eyes.
pull together. And I do
They'll
find
look
that
at
that's
the other glasses.
I do find that novelty radio very interesting. One I've not seen before. The one that Howard you had called out by the Farnsworth to the left of the Farnsworth here.
That's the Dahlberg's. They call it a pillow speaker radio. It's a hospital radio basically that uses.
In fact, the speaker's on the left there. If you look,
Oh,
that
yes.
little pad-like thing is the speaker you put by the pillow.
Got it.
Now, would that thing mount on the bedboard, or is that something you'd put on a table or?
I think they mounted on the headboard,
Interesting.
Really
which means
interesting.
it was a contortionist thing for the person in the hospital bed.
Yeah, no question. How
If he
neat.
didn't get electrocuted, he had a good prognosis.
All right.
Yeah, there's Carl.
Yeah, that's Carl Johnson. He specializes in vintage hi-fi. He used to be Mr. Zenith. He did a lot of buying and selling of Zenith consoles, but as that market softened up, he moved into, I'll call it mid-tier vintage hi-fi.
I
Interesting.
got the chassis from him.
That chassis is a Heathkit, I'm pretty sure. And
Oh, I
no, the skinny chassis, I was talking about the one on the left, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
meant I got this chassis on this Walton's radio behind me from Carl.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. That's what you meant.
He's got a little Belmont there, or
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
That
a
looks like
nice shape.
yeah.
Rabbit.
Robert's tape deck.
I actually bought that from him.
Ah, there you go.
The tape deck. Interesting.
No, the rabbit, the rabbit, the Coronado,
Oh, okay.
the white radio.
The white radio he bought. Oh, it's a Coronado?
It was a Coronado. Yeah, there's a Belmont and a Coronado. They're both the same thing.
Oh, okay. Oh, no, interesting.
Yeah, but I guess Belmont did make for, different department stores. And
Yes, they did. In fact, quite extensively. And of course, Coronado would have been the Gamble's stores out of Minneapolis. I'm actually putting a list together with the help of another one of our members of all of the brands that were in department stores and then who are the primary makers of their radios.
interesting.
Part of the fun of my job is I've been able to help people identify who made these really goofy brand radios by taking a look at the markings on the chassis and stuff. Turns out Wells Gardner in Chicago was extraordinarily prolific. The amount of stuff they made for people was amazing.
Awards.
Yeah, Montgomery Ward was one of their big company customers, but there was a bunch others. And they're still in business, by the way. They're making IT equipment these days.
Oh, really?
They
Yeah,
made pretty good radios.
Yeah, those airline radios are actually rather nice. Nicely done.
yeah. Greg and I have a particular passion for the movie dial ones, so we're always exchanging notes on those.
Yeah, you've done some tremendous research on those too.
I like the white and black shoe radios underneath the table.
Yeah, When you get to be Carl's age, they get harder to tune.
I see some TOs there.
Yeah, transoceanics have kind of become like popcorn. I mean, their value has really dropped. Now, those ones there, I know the guy that owns them, and they were all virtually mint sets.
They look
I
great.
mean, if
Looks
he
like he's got
didn't get one that was mint, it became mint by the time he got done with it. So, and of course, he's got the little rarer brown leather one there, and probably, which is right in front of the fellow with the blue shirt.
Right.
But they also made a military one that was done in an olive drab fabric with a mil-spec label on the front. Those are probably one of the rarer ones of the tubular sets.
I love the Crosley regens. The gentleman in front has his hand on. Those
Yeah,
are Crosleys. I think they're different models.
I don't think he figured out there was no batteries hooked to it.
That's funny. All right, let's see what we got here. Oh,
Okay, well, this was my pile. So,
okay.
So, and what you're looking at on the ground is Berlant concert tone tape decks. A friend of mine and from my dad's estate, we've got those, and there's some amplifiers here stacked up that you can see the backside of, or preamps, I should say. The musicians like these preamps because you've got a microphone in and it's a preamp out, and you can have your tube distortion rather than your transistor distortion.
If you had any doubts on how hot it is, you see that guy wiping his forehead there, and you got a couple of cases of water. Hey, one
Right.
thing though that's kind of neat, and you don't see them that often, is in front of that little red SUV there. There's a piece. It's a Zenith, and those were designed. They had a set of speakers that went with that. It's an AM/FM.
Yeah, there's actually
You don't
the one
pop up
done
that
all
often.
the
Those
way
are
to the
nice
left.
sets.
That what's not in the picture is it's a stereo radio. There's a speaker in the radio cabinet, and there's another matching cabinet that's about half the width that has the other speaker in it.
Okay.
And the reason I have that is my grandparents had one of those when I was a kid, and my youngest brother said, "Gee, it would be fun to have another one of those." So I picked up another one, and he said, "Nah, thanks anyway." So, but anyway, it got sold, and there's two major versions of those, as I understand. The guy that owns the red car used to work for Zenith. In fact, he designed black and white televisions and then cable TV boxes for Zenith. And trivia fact is Kmart had a Zenith radio that was much lower price, or Zenith television that was much lower price than any other black and white TV, and he designed that TV for Kmart specifically. So back to the comments we were making about Wells Gardner and Belmont, even though it said Zenith on it, it was for a specific store. But anyway, back to that radio, there's two versions. There's a hot chassis version and there's a transformer version. I can't tell you which one that one is, but they made it over a number of years, and I'm going to guess they cost reduced it and made it a hot chassis after they made the initial one.
Yeah.
They work quite well.
Yeah, the sound is pretty good. That's why they're,
yeah.
seem to be pretty
And a number of people commented that they rarely see them with the second speaker.
Yes.
And of course, when I've run across them, that's the only way I found them. But that's just me. And then the radio between these two gentlemen here, where you can see the doors, one's open, one's closed.
Yeah.
That's an interesting set, not from the viewpoint that anybody cares. It's a 20s set, but it's made by Fan Steel. And Fan Steel is a company in North Chicago, which is not the north side of Chicago. It's a town up by Waukegan, which is pretty close to the Wisconsin border. But Fan Steel is best known for making selenium rectifiers. So if you ever had a selenium rectifier blow up on you, probably just before it caught fire, you saw where it said Fan Steel on it. They also make other electronic components. They're still in business, but early in the 20s, they made radios, and that's a chest on table radio. So that top piece comes off, and then the power supply sits in the bottom, and it's got a kind of a sunburst grill over the speaker. It's got a folded horn that's made out of like a paper mache. So it was interesting, but it was not not an easy sell. I actually gave it to somebody. Because again, the preservation is great, and if I don't have to preserve it, it's even better.
Yeah, yeah.
Fans still market gramophone needles.
Yes.
Still buy them.
Interesting. All right.
Okay, that's another shot. Now you can actually see the speaker sort of in that picture.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So there's just a bunch of other stuff there, obviously. The grandmother clock radio is a Westinghouse. I forget. It's not the big one. It's the next one down. It's the one that actually had kind of a table radio in the middle of it and a much bigger clock on the top. And the one and behind it is a cabinet that fell over that I got from a guy because I had a good cabinet with nothing in it, and that had all the other parts in it except the cabinet was shrapnel. So I made one radio out of two.
Okay.
And there's the silver tone I bought from you.
Yeah, there it is.
Second one in.
There we
That
go.
one,
Tuning, Greg. Yep.
That's a nice radio.
It is, yeah.
Tuning eye and all.
Yeah, no, nothing but the best.
Nothing but the best from Tom. That's right.
Yeah. Hey, trivia fact: Philco never used tuning eyes.
No, they didn't.
Oh, interesting.
They
They
were
use
hooked up
tuning.
to
They
chassis
use
meters.
shadow meters, but they never use tuning eyes.
They just use shrinking 10-eyed grills.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of companies had problems with the Scotch.
Well, again, to quote my friend from Zenith, they all lasted their 10-year design life.
Yeah, I mean, whoever thought, that
Yeah.
something like that, so many years.
Cool.
What's that tuner, Tom?
On the right,
Yeah, does that have a tuning eye above the?
it does have a tuning eye.
Yeah,
That
it looks
is
like
that is an AM hi-fi tuner made by Sergeant Raymond,
But that's a good one.
kind of an obscure company. But apparently there would have been other matching components, but that's all I've got.
Interesting. Not seen very often.
No, and most people didn't know what it was. It was something my dad snarfed years ago, and it was in his pile of stuff. And it's in like mint shape. It's got, and the interesting thing is the whole entire chassis, the IF cams and everything are all painted brown.
Hmm.
And there's nothing magic about brown except that the paint's in super great condition. So it's just one of those orphan interesting things.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Well, an antenna and some speakers, and you could have a conversation piece.
Yeah, well, you can tie it into your favorite stereo and have mono AM.
Now, think about that Zenith again, that the dual speaker. I think at our big show, I think Roger had one of those for sale. I think I vaguely remember. I think I've seen one of those before, and they're not seen often with those second speakers. So it is really interesting. It's only the second one I've ever seen.
That was probably the model for the dentist or doctor's office, who did quite well, and they could afford to have that in there to play the beautiful music before you went
Right.
in
The dual speaker.
and got the crown.
That's right. And your crown's paying for that second speaker. There should be a sign donated by Fred Jones. Fred Jones crown. All right.
Well, now you guys can identify those radios again. I actually never got to this person's
Well, let's
display.
see. He's got quite a bit of Zenith. There's that
Yeah.
little sort of beige AMer is a
Yeah.
Zenith.
That's what's
And
in.
then there's a portable Zenith. Then there's a Zenith with the brown Bakelite next to the
Stromberg.
people
No,
there
that's a
with-
Stromberg Carlson.
That's a
Yeah.
Stromberg, yep. And then there's an RCA with the not the bullhorn. It just has a different speaker cover.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And there's got a gill there on the upper left, right in front of that guy's t-shirt.
Oh yeah, I think you're right.
Look, maybe the Spice Rack one or something
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that.
There
I
you go.
think that's Tom Grazik's stuff, isn't it, Tom?
I don't know.
Yeah, because I think I bought that Crosley from him. down
See if I
there.
can zoom in a little closer. If you guys-
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
there's a Crossley on the lower.
Yeah,
left.
that's a Crosley. Mhm.
Yeah.
That followed me home too.
Well, I hope you had a large vehicle there, Greg.
Well, he
Yeah,
had his dad with to help carry.
Yeah, he helped carry.
I
That's
see.
his green
You had-
wagon. That's his green wagon. He brought them home.
That's funny. Oh, up. I see something.
Oh,
Looks like a
Up,
Grundig
up,
there.
up, up, up.
There's a Grundig. Pretty sure it's a
Yeah,
Grundig.
that's another thing we have a glut of in this area is your pick your German radio brand of the
Interesting.
8-tube radios.
Oh, really? Well, it's
Uh,
large German population out there, and you,
Oh,
you,
you bet. Well,
you should know.
Yeah, well, and more so by Greg because Milwaukee was really a major
Exactly.
settlement for Germans.
Yeah,
And you can tell because there's companies that make sausage there, and there's a lot of beer companies, and heavy equipment was a big part of what Milwaukee had.
Yeah, it's a nice looking piece. It looks
John,
in great
you'd be
condition.
in heaven here, John.
Sorry,
I say you would be in heaven here, John, of all these German
I'm
radios.
going to have to come out and visit. There's too many things that I'm missing out by you. All good American sets, lots of German, and of course, Wisconsin has my favorite beer. So there we go.
There you go.
But yeah, no, that's pretty good. I spotted that a little bit. Whoops, sorry about that. Roll that back a bit. There we go. Next photo. If I can get this down a bit.
Well, we've entered the 1920s here.
Yeah, for the most part.
I'd say so. This is probably more Mark's area of expertise. Some of these sets here.
So I'm looking. The first thing I noticed is the Crosley with an unusual cabinet dead center. It's a one tube reflex. I'm sorry, did I say that right? Regen. I'm sorry. And look at it. If somebody put it in a bigger cabinet, probably put the batteries in there too. But the two on the left, I can't identify, but definitely my.
Interesting.
What's that taller set with the little brass escutcheon there and the behind the regen?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a mystery.
Good looking radio. I mean, it's got a
Yeah.
little veneer
That
issue
one.
there, but that's an oldie. But I bet it's a superhead, maybe a TRF. I don't know.
I think that's a Traveler on the right, the newer looking one with the slant front.
Yeah, that could be like a Traveler or like a Teletone, and then I think that's a little
Telephone. There you go, I'm sorry.
portable. Yeah.
Teletone is what that is.
Yeah,
That cathedral looking one might be a Jackson Bell. I'm not sure, but I've seen that escutcheon somewhere.
That's an impressive looking set. Look at this.
Yeah, it sure is.
The work, the molding around the speaker. That's sharp. That was probably some bucks.
Oh, look at that. Some stuff in the ground too.
Well, you can tell the power supplies were relegated to the ground so the table wouldn't collapse.
Yeah. Good luck picking that stuff up.
yeah.
Well, we had plenty of hand trucks and stuff, and you could drive your car into wherever you bought something and picked it up. So it's not like you had to schlep it a long distance. It's just you had to have the desire to pick it up in the first place.
Well,
Can
Pete,
anybody identify the chassis that's bottom center? It looks like it has a ton of iron in it.
yeah, that's for people wanting to do some weightlifting there.
Yeah.
If for those of you who are maybe Seinfeld fans, be the Izzy Mandelbaum picking up, you hear the crack. Oh, my back!
I wonder what those two little. They look like paper cards on the top. I wonder if that's any type of a.
Let's see if I can
Clue.
zoom in a little bit further. I don't know if I'll be able to get much more out of this, but let's try.
No,
They
I mean,
look
it could
like
be-
they're
you also
stampings
couple
with
of things
a
you put
pattern
on,
in them.
just sitting there. I don't know.
It looks like those are two metal shrouds with just a logo on there or something.
Yeah, I think on the left there's a graphic, and on the right there's a company name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm seeing the script, but I don't think I've got enough. I'm using,
Yeah, we're at the wrong angle and don't have enough resolution.
yeah, I'm
Looks
right.
like two photographs.
Yeah. I wonder if that's not a Majestic. That thing looks about as heavy as Majestics used to be.
These things are monster, though. I agree. There's a lot of iron to be had there.
What's interesting about that one is that the dial is red at the bottom. The one behind it is definitely a Majestic, but the escutcheon would usually have the opening at the top. So it's kind of interesting. It's a very interesting thing.
Yeah, no, for sure. Mysteries abound.
Some more shoe radios too.
Yes, indeed.
Well, what are those small radios up top that I happen to have a bunch of? I think they're Zenith.
Oh, the next shot.
The next picture.
Yep, there we go. Sorry,
Oh, man.
The four along the back that are the beige and the black, those are Zenith 500s.
Is that Gary Ball's table? We come down from Wisconsin.
Oh yeah, I see. Here's a GAR.
He's Mr. Transistor. He has a lot of interesting sets.
There's
Yeah,
some
the
nice
four on
ones.
the back. The four on the back are definitely treasures. The ones with the oval speakers actually sound really good. They kind of made the whole front of the radio with one big speaker inside and worked the PCB around it. And they're supposed to sound pretty good. I do not have one of those.
Yeah,
Well,
that was one of the many versions of the 500 as they progressed along. We actually had a guy do a talk on one of our Zoom meetings about the whole series. It was really fascinating. And but that was their top line AM radio for a lot of years.
I actually have their chassis on display in the museum, and it starts off with the punched metal chassis, discrete components put into a metal chassis and hand wired. I think that looks great.
That was always Zenith's big advertising theme. Because if you ever worked on their tube type color televisions, they're all hand wired sets.
Right. Wow, some nice looking pieces there. What we got here? Oh, look at all these helicopters.
How many variations on a theme do you want to see for helicopters?
Yeah, I know. I was just saying, look at this. Let's see if I can.
That's all the same basic model, just different years.
Yeah.
It's a 6-tube set, maybe 7.
S38.
Yeah, the S38 family, and they're a hot chassis set. They're just a notch above the All-American 5. They just happen to have short wave on them. But they sold them by the boatload. You find them all the time.
Yeah.
And if you look at the bottom, there's even variations on those, because the one on the left has 3 switches on the left side, and the ones the next 2 over have 2 switches on the left side, and one less knob. So yeah, you can probably go crazy with that. You fill a room with all the variations of these things.
One less knob and one less tube for the BFO.
Anybody know what the tube count was for radio?
I should. I just restored one 6 months ago.
Yeah, I mean, is it still one step above a 5 All-American 5?
Yeah, 1 or 2. Yeah, they might have 8 tubes in them. I've fixed some in the past, but it's been a long time.
When I was a kid, I lusted after Helicrafters, and I became an accidental Helicrafters collector because that's what happened to be on estate sales here. So I did an S38. I got a WR 1500, which was a living room bookshelf receiver, and I just finished up an S108. And after working on 3 of them, I realized they're mid to low range, but I'm just unimpressed. I was not crazy about them. The S38 drove me nuts trying to get that thing working and aligned, and the BFO is a real pain in the neck in those. So I don't know.
It was that S38 series is their bottom of the line set.
Yeah.
If you bought their top line stuff, it was very differently constructed than their bottom line stuff.
Yeah, I gotta get me a higher end one, because right now I'm not thinking too highly of them.
Well, they also made televisions.
Yeah. Huh. I didn't know that.
And Helicrafters moved from Chicago to an adjacent suburb to me here called Rolling Meadows, because they had moved into government contract work exclusively.
Huh.
and Northrop bought that facility. So now it's a Northrop facility.
Interesting.
And when I worked at Motorola in Schaumburg, which is another suburb that's not too far away, we had engineers bopping between the two companies all the time, because when Northrop would get a big contract, they'd pay really well, and then when the contract was over, they'd leave everybody off, and all of a sudden we see all these faces again back at Motorola. Not that Motorola paid badly, but they just couldn't compete with the the government piece.
Interesting. Oh, or
There's a panoramic view.
yeah.
You realize, by the way, when a model number of a Helicrafter's radio has an X in it, so like an S something is a shortwave radio, and SX would be, it was a crystal controlled radio.
Oh,
That's what the
okay.
X stood for.
Now that set on the plastic tub there, would
Yeah,
that
that's
be a little higher end?
a little higher end. That's also late 30s. Especially when you look at the that meter dial is that kind of sepia colored plastic.
With that very distinctive H.
Yeah, now that's still like a mid-tier set. That isn't their top of the line thing by any means, but it's a notch above the S38.
Yeah, Philco cigar box behind them there, right above it.
Oh, right here.
Yeah. it's a-
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, Phil-
They should call it-
Yeah.
They call it a cigar box.
Some call it cigar box or mantle radio. Yeah.
I really get a kick out of the battery set on the left. It's a transition set in that they've managed to incorporate all the tuning into a couple of dials. But you'll notice if you pop the hood, it looks kind of like a 3-dialer radio. But we don't know the make of that by chance, do we? Oh, and look at the plug-in rotating antenna on top.
I would guess that's RCA Radiola.
I would say it's radiola as well. Look at the antenna on top, the loop antenna. That's also transition when radio manufacturers were trying to get rid of the long wire that most people had.
There it is.
Nice. Look at that.
The nice shape.
Hey, Joe, can you zoom into the escutcheon on that a little bit? I
Yeah,
don't know.
let me see what I can do. I
What
think
I'd
I'm
like to
at
really
max.
see you do is open the lid so we can see inside.
I'm at full max here. Interesting
Now,
escutcheon.
my money is that that's a Radiola.
My money's there too. I have a version of that radio with a vertical front, and it has the twin tuning. And the radiolas are the ones that put all their components in an asphalt. So you have to go to the manufacturer to get your radio fixed.
Yeah, they call the nickname for that is the catacomb.
That's right, catacomb.
In fact, that's what the Radiola 30 we just got donated is. It's got about, I don't know, seems like 8 199 tubes, and it's over a catacomb housing.
I have that radio in the museum, the 8-tube. And if you fold the front down, all the tubes fold down in front as well.
Right. Yeah, and the radio, this particular one, you fold the little door down in front of the radio, and then the radio slides out on slides
Cool.
because it's got this giant cabinet. If
Just
you want to
never
come and get it, we'll give it to the museum.
Yeah,
All right, Mark.
serious? Are you serious?
Yeah,
Where is it located?
it's in the Chicago metro area here.
Oh, geez, no, thank you. Thank you. I happen to love radiolas as much as Crosley's, and I think it's because of the multiple tube construction that they managed to go forward with, still in a 1920s radio.
Well, there's super hets. That's why they did the potting of the electronics. They wanted to make it a mystery.
Mark, hop onto your John Deere, drive out to Chicago.
Yeah, drive up.
Ah,
Your vintage
get
trucks
that
there.
going someday.
All
What's
right.
the little receiver on top of the cassette deck? At first I thought it was like a Star Roamer, but it looks like maybe it's something, is that another different type of Hallicrafters?
No, I don't think that's Hallicrafters. That might be a Japanese knockoff of something,
Yeah.
you know, like made by Lafayette Radio or somebody like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, the coloring and size sort of looked like a Star Roamer, but the more I looked, it didn't look like it.
I don't know if I can get any closer to still have some amount of resolution.
Yeah, that might be an Allied set.
Yeah,
I'm looking at the size of the name in the middle there. I can't read it obviously, but
Yeah,
it's too short to be Lafayette, but it is long enough that it could be Allied Radio.
Yeah, but you're saying we're down about here, right?
Yeah, right
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not Lafayette.
Was that like a kit, like a Heath kit, or did they sell?
They sold built things as well as kit things, and if it was if it was Allied, it would say night kit on it.
I see.
right.
And so if it wasn't a kit, it would just say Allied on it.
Yeah, and the Star Roamer was a kit. Cool.
I'm gonna rely on Greg for a lot of this identification stuff because he at least got to walk through the whole flea market. I didn't.
Well, I remember where this vendor was. He was way off to the side on the, he wasn't in a row. He had his own little row there.
Well, that's yours truly. And we're at Steve Bartkowski's display. Steve's big into military radios.
Yeah, it looks that way.
And of course, that radio I got my hands on, that's what Motorola developed for World War II, the FM handy talkies. And a lot of hams have put those back on the air and come up with an alternate battery to put inside, which of course battery technology has improved a bunch, so you can get something in the cavity pretty easily.
Yeah.
Those are Heathkit electronic crossovers on the left.
Oh, okay.
The top one has the proper knobs, the bottom one doesn't.
Interesting.
I'm just full of useless information.
No, that's all right.
Those
That's true for all of us.
Made a huge impact as well in World War II. I mean, from some of the stuff I've read, the superiority, the clarity, they didn't have the distance maybe of, I don't know that the Germans had any type of an FM talkie, and they were well liked in the field, I guess.
Yeah, well, when I worked on cell phone stuff at Motorola, and all the early cell phones were designed to the same spec as the police two-way radios, which means they had to drop 30 inches onto a concrete floor multiple times with zero damage. And also worked from, trying to remember the spec, minus 40 to plus 60 degrees centigrade.
Wow.
Which is why when you had your old flip phone or your old brick phone, they were bulletproof.
Right. Almost mill standard.
Well, yeah, because the same people that designed the two-way radios, when we split off into a new division to make cellular, we just brought all the two-way radio stuff with them. And so that's what made that's why go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say we just all need one of these hanging off our belt, something of that size.
Well, you didn't hang those off your belt. You actually had a strap that went over your shoulder.
Right.
And there's more than one version of that radio. I think that's the smaller one, actually.
Well, I'm sure it would surely pull the pants down otherwise.
Yeah, you need a strong belt.
Didn't they have a very low wattage, something like 2 or 3 watts?
Yeah, they had to because the batteries were, not very robust back in that time period.
Yeah.
Because they actually have a battery pack that comes into the bottom, so you can carry a spare battery with you and swap it out, I believe. Obviously, they designed those long before I was born, so.
Yeah.
Motorola, Tom, for you're intimately familiar, I'm sure, but it's one of those companies that it's there, but I don't know if it gets the respect that it deserves. So there was a story a few years back. You remember Olin Schuler? He was president for
right, yeah. Yeah, Olin worked in the consumer products group in Quincy, Illinois, which is by the Mississippi River.
Yeah, and he was, extremely proud, and rightly so. Apparently he was excuse me, involved in the first FM car radio that Motorola put together. And there was a story in the newsletter kind of chronicling, how it was designed. It went to the test production line. And, Olin being Olin, extremely proud. I could hear the smile in his voice, zero modifications from the board to the test production line, put it in the car and it worked. And I guess the only modification they did a little later on was to the dial, the dial face. But the big thing for him was apparently the fellow who headed up that whole project later met Olin many years later and gave him one of those test production models that had come off the line. And, they went out for dinner, which is what this guy used to do when something went so successfully. But you just, the quality of the engineering sounds very impressive. They ran a very tight ship, it sounded like, and, great stuff,
Well,
really
the thing with Motorola, you were asking kind of what happened to it, is once, Motorola left consumer products in 1974. They invented the Quasar brand name in 1964.
Quasar.
So they'd have something to sell later on, because they realized that Zenith and RCA was going to eat their lunch forever, even though the first all solid state color television minus the tube was done by Motorola, and which was one of the first Quasar sets. And then the Quasar 2 was the cost reduced version where they put a few more tubes back in it. But they sold the consumer products division to Matsushita, which is the parent of Panasonic.
Right.
And then they owned the brand name. But what happened when Motorola got into cell phones, that they got back into consumer products. And they also grew incredibly. We were printing money, literally. I mean, it was amazing. I was having people yelling at me that I wasn't spending millions of dollars fast enough to put more equipment in the factory.
Wow.
And because it had a high visibility, Motorola was always a contrarian stock up to then. So if the market went up, Motorola went down and vice versa. It was a great portfolio balancer. But then Wall Street literally started running the company. And so Motorola being a long range thinking company of 15, 20 years out, and Wall Street being a, what did you do for me 5 minutes ago? Those two things were in conflict.
What's going on this quarter?
Yeah. And then the next thing was just like, pick your favorite company, whether it's Zenith or Hewlett Packard or whoever it is. We were a hardware company. Software was a thing we glued onto stuff because you had to.
Right.
Now hardware is the platform the software runs on.
Exactly.
And that's a whole different business model.
Yeah.
I worked on the first cellular base stations, and it was, I want to say it was 7 or 8 19-inch racks, and it gave you a whopping 16 phone calls.
Oh, geez.
And we made the stuff like popcorn, but it took up a lot of real estate. So as we came up with smaller stuff, the cell companies would take those bigger base stations, put them in the suburbs where they had more room, and put the newer stuff in the cities where the real estate was expensive. And now a cell site's the size of a PC, so it's the integration has been incredible.
Oh yeah, miniaturization.
So the thing is, between the marketplace changing dramatically was really the demise of Motorola and many companies like Motorola. They still exist. They're still making public service radios, so again, you'll see policemen and firemen with either 2-ways or private cell network radios. I'm sure they still do stuff for the government. I know when I was there, even though the government electronics division was in Arizona, the 2-way radio folks were making spook radios in rooms that if you walked in there by any chance, if you had got a chance, you would have been people would have been rappelling off of buildings. There would have been helicopters hovering, that would have been bad. So, we don't know what they did in there except for the people that were in there. So it was a great ride. The last 3 years I was there sucked because the whole thing was imploding.
Yeah.
But no complaints.
No, very interesting background. Oh, there we go.
That's good stuff, huh?
Okay, you guys can't say it's a Zenith on the left because everybody knows that. And,
Yeah, right. I hope
and the
so.
slant fronts are as a Philco. So we got those two out of the way. And the middle one's is Zenith. You can even read Zenith here.
Yep.
And so now we're gonna have Greg identify the tombstone and the two cathedrals.
Zany Gill.
Let's see, I think that the tombstone might be a.
Crosley.
Yeah, and the cathedrals are Atwater, Kent, the one.
Oop, Don't worry about
924.
that. Yeah.
That's the Jackson Bell.
That's a Jackson Bell, yeah. The other cathedral is the Atwater. To the left.
Just a Philco that's perpendicular.
You call that one the log cabin.
Oh, beautiful.
It's like a console radio and a tabletop. Those are heavy.
I bet they are.
Yeah, they are. It's the same chassis they use in those rectangular consoles of the early 40s and so on.
This is kind of interesting. The one in the corner here.
It's a beauty.
No, no, I walked past it. I can't remember what it is.
Wondering
I
about this
think
one.
that's Teletone. Teletone.
You think
That's a
so?
Teletone? I believe
Oh.
so.
Good
It
call,
has-
Howard.
It has a German look to it.
It does. I'm looking at this thing and I say, geez, it looks German, but it looks too small to be German because usually they, but of course it could be the angle too, parallax, but yeah,
No, I think it's a smaller set.
yeah. Attractive looking set though, unusual.
Teletone made some funky looking stuff like Swiss cheesy grills and weird looking little Bakelite cases. Anything to get somebody to buy a 5.2
No,
radio.
actually, I think I spotted a German thing right down at the bottom. I see still lots of neat toys at the bottom too.
Yeah,
Oh,
that
yeah.
one,
Yep,
the one on the left there looks German.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure that might be a Telefunken, but I have to have might be a Caprice or a Jubilata. See if I can get closer to that.
I can see
Actually-
some of the price tags. It looks like
Yeah, it's a Jubilata
restored
Deluxe.
and
It's probably
refinished radio.
it's probably like around probably a 54 or so. This is probably from 63, 64. It's a Jubilata Deluxe. So Deluxe, for Jubilata fans, had the tuning eye, the EM84 tuning eye. And if it wasn't Deluxe, you didn't get the tuning eyes. They had one less tube. But that was basically, otherwise, same radio, same sounds, just a little extra glitz,
Yeah.
little eye candy for
The
you.
backside of this cathedral that we're seeing looks like a TRS set.
Yeah. One thing is actually looking all up and down because it's not just what's
That's a
up with paper.
Philco.
This one here.
That's a Philco. Yep. You can tell by the shields. You see how there's 3 tubes shielded
On the
by a
left.
single metal shield.
Yeah, I think I
Uh-huh.
can make out Philco on the
Well,
label.
Wells Gardner did that too, but I can see that it looks like the Philco logo on that label though.
It's missing the
It's an
arch in the
RCA on the
cabinet.
left.
Yeah, I see Philco a label.
Yeah,
Just,
Look at the transformer in that RCA. My God.
That's a skyscraper,
This is a skyscraper. I have an RCA set and it's got a similar size and it almost looks like it kind of pushed down on the chassis. I don't know. It's a heavy set.
I remember this vendor, he had a lot of
big
neat
problem.
stuff, but he had some pretty steep prices on everything.
oh, it's all right.
Well, I
Yeah,
think it looks restored and refinished, or at least like that Jackson Bell and that Zenith.
some of them were restored,
in the
yeah.
middle, yeah.
There's a whole variety. Covers the solid states of the older tube stuff. You see, it looks like a TO over here.
Yeah, that looks like it could be an RCA that right there next to the left.
Hmm.
well, the middle one looks to be a General Electric.
Right, I think the one on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
right might be either a General
That's an
Electric or.
Emerson. Emerson on the right. And the
What
one
is
above-
it?
That's an Emerson.
that looks like an Emerson to me.
Has that look to it.
It
Could
might
be, I
not
don't know.
be, but the one on top of the radio to the left of it is definitely an Emerson.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
I had a Westinghouse similar to that one on the right with that squared face on it. That's, could be any one of those 3.
It could be, yeah.
Hmm. Got some good stuff here. They had more shoe radios. more goodies.
Yeah.
So I'll try to center this in here. You guys can IBM present, make the call.
He had the right idea putting up a tent.
He's got the Philco
Sorry about
Transitone, a silver tone.
Philco
Yep,
I think
sorry
Bullet,
that's
about
a
that.
Stuart Warner that looks like it has the two speakers.
Silvertone candy cane.
Oh, yeah, that's quite attractive. Yeah.
Greg, is that a Stuart Warner, the one that looks like it has two speakers? I don't think it has two. It just looks like it has two.
It might be. I wonder if that's not a, that could be. There's
See if I
a
can-
cube behind it.
He's got some nice stuff.
Well, I'm a full magnification. Sorry,
That's an
guys.
awfully plain looking radio with the round grill cloth and that two knobs.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that is.
That's like a minimalist design.
Well,
The
also
dancing bear radio.
out of Chicago, I mean, you had all these RPC plants that would make these chassis and these basic sets, and people would kind of stamp their own name on them if they had a hardware store. I have one of those now, and I cannot for the life of me figure out what it is.
What's RPC stand for?
Radio Products of Chicago, or Radio Products Company, but there were like 3 plants in Chicago, A, B, and C, or something like that. Maybe
Oh,
Tom
yeah.
could give you more of an out,
Well, one of the things that Jeff Aulick identified as the plant A, plant B, plant C thing was Clinton.
Clinton, right.
Yeah, now I don't have anything to prove that, but and then there was also like a factory A, factory B, and that was a different company. I've got a whole list of stuff. I'm going to be putting an article in the newsletter with that in it probably in December.
Because I got that Lionel radio for you at one time, and that was a plant A, I think, at Clinton. Was one of your dad's radios?
Yep.
Yeah.
Does anybody recognize the radio far side of the table? I think I have that.
I think it's
A Detroit or a Detroit.
This one here?
that looks like a Zenith.
Far left.
that's a Zenith 5S29.
Yeah.
The hooded with the hooded dial.
Oh, you're talking about the one on the back row.
Yeah, in the back row. That's correct.
Oh,
The
yeah.
rectangular one.
Don't keep going left.
This one here?
Nope. Keep going.
Oh,
Right in front of the car. It,
Right in
it
front.
looks like
Oh.
like it's got a lit dial, but I think
that's a
it's
Philco.
Yeah,
that's who?
38 Philco.
38 Philco. Very good. Refresh.
Bullet.
I have that radio.
They made a bunch of variations of that basic shape.
They did.
Yeah, like that log cabin radio. There's a bunch of them that don't have that log cabin motif that are still that same slanted front.
Right.
So how building would you need to capture every USA manufacturer and model? I'm thinking
Well, pretty big.
bigger than my bomb.
Hey, what's that large radio in, the one with the circular speaker, compartment there, the round grill cloth? What's the one in the back of it? It's tall.
I mean,
and
the
it
one,
has sort of a
plus sign?
square.
That's probably a GE or.
Yeah, look at G or
I don't
RCA.
think that's factory grill cloth, but that's kind of a unique looking set.
sure is. Yeah, I was looking at that. I've been sort of staring at the thing, wondering, what is that?
Hey, Paul, do you think that the one with the 2 speaker grills, I think that might be a Delco.
Could be a Delco.
Yeah. I recognize the dial on it. I had a little Delco that had the same dial.
Yeah. It's funny, you see a lot of those that have the 2 pieces of grill cloth, and most do not have 2 speakers.
Right.
It's just
Right.
kind of an effect.
Just-
To symmetry of the cabinet, I guess. or
Right.
I don't know if they thought they could fool you, like you never take the cover off the back and look.
Unless they made it like a better model, you get the base one without the speaker and the extras, and then you can get the full blown.
I do have an RCA. It's a 5-tube. It has a little nipper, golden foil dial. It's kind of a neat looking set. And it has 2 louvered openings, and it actually does have 2 speakers.
Oh,
A lot of them don't because, they're value engineered,
right.
get some
Little guys.
There's good.
Nice.
Headboard radios.
a skull radio.
Yeah.
Let's
The
see.
one just to the right, left of his skull is such a headboard radio.
Right.
The light.
Oh, right here.
The Mitchell lullaby, right? Mitchell?
I
Whoop.
think that's made it. Yeah.
Let's see if I can get a little closer to that. Sorry, I have to just. It's not quite as easy to do as when I'm doing sharing photos. I think that's what it is. I think it is a Mitchell.
Mhm.
What's his name? Chris. Is it Chris Thompson? Is that his last name? The guy with all the cool restored console radios from the 30s. Like was at the big show. He has all these beautiful sets. I think he had one of those there.
I see he's got a big Zenith shutter dial in the back of the truck.
He's got some nice stuff under the table too. I don't know if you saw those other ones.
Yeah, let's see if we can pan in there. Oh yeah,
An Admiral?
good call there, Howard. Okay, now you have to name the radio.
Yeah.
You can get a second one like you guys like with that high crust grill on the,
Yeah, that is the same one. Same kind.
Now,
That's a
now
nice
it looks
little,
majestic at looking at the knobs. I don't know.
that second one from the left has a nice little airplane dial.
Sure
Yeah,
does.
so
Yep, that
it
one.
might be a silver tone, I think.
Yeah, that's kind of Silvertone's. That looks like a Silvertone style face for sure. The one to the right, not sure.
Oh, what was
I'm
that
at
one I
max
had?
magnification, so I'm not sure what I can do for you guys. Sorry.
I don't know what
Oh, yeah.
that is.
that's gonna be a tough radio to tune because it's 1-to-1 on the
Yeah.
tune capacitor.
Oh yeah.
So trivia fact that my friend Bill told me is that Sears and Montgomery Wards both had their own industrial design departments, which is why their radios look the way they look.
Hmm. Interesting.
How
This guy
about
did-
Sears? What do they do?
I'm sorry?
How about Sears? What do they do?
Well, yeah, Sears did because the Silvertone brand is Sears,
Right, okay.
and they had their own industrial design department, and Montgomery Ward did as well.
Mhm.
So the other piece of trivia is the reason that Chicago had the country's largest post office was because of all the mail order companies that were headquartered in Chicago.
That's probably true.
In fact, the old post office is being renovated right now into a multi-use building, and when they put in an extension to the expressway, they actually cut out a section of the first floor and you drive through the post office
Huh.
in the expressway.
Interesting. I like it.
Somewhere, Tom, I had seen an old postcard, or might have been from like a local history type book, like a little travel log or something. And what was it? It claimed Zenith had the single largest manufacturing facility in the country.
I wouldn't be surprised, but they
I
had
mean,
plants
it
all
looked
over the
like
city of
a couple
Chicago.
city blocks. It was just absolutely monstrous.
Yeah, they were all over the city. In fact, they made their own picture tubes as well. There was a company called Rolland, which is still in business, that makes equipment here. And Rolland was making picture tubes, and Zenith bought their picture tube operation. So that's why whenever you opened up a Zenith TV in the earlier sets, it would say Zenith Rolland on the tube, but it was still known within Zenith as the Rolland tube division.
You know, somewhere on the net, I had seen, they were showing pictures of, old abandoned industrial complexes, buildings. And there was one, I'm lucky I remember even seeing it on the web, but there was one that was a Zenith facility, and the building was still there. It was heavily graffitied and it looked pretty vandalized. And whoever acquired the assets after probably multiple, handoffs of Zenith owned it.
LG owns the brand.
And I think somebody had approached them as far as trying to gain, the goal was to gain access and to say, is there anything in there, any industrial history, anything that would be of interest, rather than just let it sit there and rot. because apparently there were still files, and I don't know if the guy had gone in there, when he shouldn't have, but it wasn't vacant per se, and it hadn't been burned out. But you always wonder what's lying around.
Yeah.
I have an old Zenith. Well, a friend of mine has it, and he asked me to restore it for him. It's an old Zenith Transoceanic, one of the very first with the airplane on the front of it.
That is the first one.
Yep. And it's in bad shape, but I think I can bring it back.
Yeah, the thing that's going to drive you crazy is the push button switches on the side for changing bands.
Yeah, probably. I'm
The
familiar
other
with
thing is
those.
that was an AM set that was adapted to shortwave.
Mhm.
So it's a little kludgier than most
Okay.
transoceanics. And of course, the other version of that's the one with the ship on the grill cloth.
Right.
But
Right.
everybody wants one with the airplane.
Yep. Well, he has the one with the airplane. And I told him that was a very sought after, very valuable radio. And I told him that I would probably take me a while to do it, because I'd have to think about every operation to restore it.
I had an airplane radio years ago. I let it go for $50. I was selling off chassis and all my not exhibitable radios, like a big yard sale for radio. And I let it go, and I think it was for like 50. Man, how do you restore the grills? And it looked pretty tough.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be.
Looks like t-shirts.
Yeah, it does. And
I
some
thought
other
they
stuff.
were egg rolls in that plastic thing.
Well, we had enough heat to keep them warm.
I thought the rags were somebody had a bar fight or something.
Yeah, right.
Somebody got punched in the nose.
Well, they must have been cheap. Preordained t-shirts, bar fight edition. Oh, there's a tube.
Oh man.
Wow.
You can almost see what it says on the label there. It says GE in the middle of it.
Yeah, it sure does.
And it's funny, it's got the solid tungsten target. That thing is so old. Shortly after that tube was used, the next version had a rotating tungsten target. And the reason for that was it wouldn't burn out, wouldn't create craters in the target. The what do you call it? Electron gun is on the left, and the what do you call it? Platinum target that is in the center.
But what is this tube used for?
Oh, I'm sorry. This is a very well used X-ray machine tube. This could be applied for either dental applications, or if you bump the voltage way up. I have one right now. I'm running at 65,000 volts. The tube probably runs on, I'd say, between 80 and 100,000 volts. Takes a lot of voltage to make X-rays. And as you can see, the little thing in the middle is a reflector. This is a 90-degree tube. 45 degree. What's right angle? 90 degree.
90 degrees is right angle. Yeah.
Interesting.
So do you wear your lead outfit when you mess with this thing, or?
Well, you can see in the left, there's a lamp socket, and the lamp socket is what powered the filament. The filaments took a lot of amps, as do mine. I actually have a hefty power supply just to run the filament. But I'm able to create small X-rays of transistor radios, little critters that you can buy in bags, stuff like that. It doesn't have a lot of power, and you certainly have to be very, very careful. Mine is encased in no less than 6 or 7 lead shields when I play around with it.
Yikes! How interesting. I bet get your electrical meter to spin like no tomorrow, right?
Oh, I'm sure it would. But go on the homemade X-ray sites. They're fascinating. All the different circuits. They use water-cooled X-ray tubes, which were the next step up. And just I got hooked into it, and I think I spent about a year building my own system. But these guys, what a bunch of brainiacs.
Good
Boy.
stuff. Here's the first double wing audio. Here we go. Another interesting.
I almost bought a reproduction for $300 like that. And but I knew it was a repro. I just have to guess what the value of that one is.
Well, let's zoom out and see if there's a price tag on it.
No,
Wow, how interesting. Oh, here we go. Nice variety of. A lot of plastic radios.
A lot of Bakelite there.
Yeah,
yeah.
actually, Bakelite. Thank you.
I actually just finished restoring a little Zenith on the bottom shelf I picked up from him.
One.
That
On the
brown-
bottom row to the right, is that potentially like an RCA, like 45 RPM in-car record player thing, or am I just not looking at it properly? If you pan
that
to
is-
the right a
that is
bit,
from your-
This one here.
right there, yeah.
That would go under your dashboard on the
Yeah,
headboard.
under the dash record player.
Yeah, I
That's a
agree.
Molt-
You know.
The Moltbar, yeah, RCA.
Yeah. Gosh,
I didn't even know they had those.
Yep,
Oh, sure. That was, it was an option for you. You know, usually it was those Chrysler New Yorkers, those Chrysler 300
well,
drivers.
no, that's an RCA, so that could go in anything. The Chrysler ones were the ridiculous ones that played at 16 and 2/3
Yes,
RPM, and there were only
exactly.
about a dozen records available
Yep.
with music like, the Ballad of Davy Crockett, or show tunes, or
Yep.
things that you wouldn't really want to listen to more than once or twice. But at
My
least
dad-
this one, this RCA was 45 RPM, and then you could put something like up to 8 or 10 45s in it and cycle through them. So
Ah, okay. Well, how interesting.
Just like having
my
a CD
dad-
changer.
My dad has a 56 Plymouth Fury and he's got a highway hi-fi in it that works with the 16-inch records.
yep,
He's got the Davy Crockett one and
yep.
several other ones.
Didn't they have a little
It's
problem?
always so slow you can count the revolutions as it goes around.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Micro groove, but it'll
Yeah.
play a long time though. Micro
It's
groove.
45 minutes on a side and it's no bigger than a little smaller than a 45 RPM record.
Yeah, about a 7-inch disc. yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Didn't they have a severe sensitivity to big bumps?
Oh,
Well-
they had severe sensitivity to small bumps, but
Yeah. It was
You-
really an ill-fated design in many ways.
Yeah.
no, you played that music. That was once you had found the nice secluded area to park in,
Right.
and then you put on the romantic music.
And Davy Crockett will work every time.
That's right.
Well, or you're playing it when you're on those big open roads that Ike had put down only a few years earlier, to cruise out with your big honking Chrysler. At that point, it was probably not too bumpy. But yeah, because those heads were pretty heavy. The arms.
Yep.
They tried to avoid the skipping.
Hey, you could bomb on down the road with the William Tell Overture.
There you
Right.
go.
Yeah,
Hi, old Silver.
yeah, that's cool. Good catch there, Noah. And Greg. That's nice crossing. Just as we're panning across. Very nice.
Well, Noah is the gentleman with the 62 Chrysler dashboard for a headboard, isn't it?
Yeah, I should probably pick up one of those RCAs to hang off the bottom of it, but it might interfere with sleep.
My
That is-
grandfather was the Chrysler Plymouth dealer in town in the 50s and 60s, and that he sold those new.
Those electroluminescent dashboards are second to none.
Beautiful.
They are so cool. The fishbowl style. Yeah. Yeah, that was we're gonna make Noah do another walk through and
The Astrodome.
the Astrodome. We're gonna make him do that again in one of these. It's plus has a working radio. Now, is that cool or is that cool? Factory radio work.
Well, some of those early 60s Chryslers had the square steering wheel too, which is kind of
Yep,
Yeah.
a
Yep.
strange idea.
Yeah, they were goofy.
more leg room. It didn't encroach on your thighs when you had a
turn the
flat
wheel over.
bottom.
slowly but surely, Virgil Exner was losing his marbles. So, but there's some neat radios, Holbein, like the Stromberg, the clock radios. Nice stuff
Yeah.
here. Let me zoom away a bit. So people can see a little bit more, but some nice pieces here. That's interesting. This one up here with this, is that a specialty radio, or is that?
Not
No idea
sure.
what that is. Well, at any rate,
I like all the color variety, different colors in the radios, like the early transistors.
Yeah.
yeah, some nice stuff here. Oh, let me see if we can dial this in. Oh, some
Yeah.
kind of TO with the box included.
Oh, look at that.
I've got one of those.
That's Dan Shu. He's the guy who took all these pictures.
Oh, okay. Oh, and
He
I
just
see that.
retired. He just retired from Fermi Labs. He spent his whole career at Fermi Labs.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, shooting particles around and stuff like that.
Oh, interesting.
If you ever look
Oh,
at
there's
pictures of their
87,000.
campus, yeah. If you ever look at the Fermi Labs main campus, or their campus, I should say, their main building looks like the Atari logo.
Oh, interesting. What do we have here?
We have a home-built wire recorder on top of a 45 RPM record player and
Wow.
other things kludged together to make one big gigantic thing.
So it's like Frankenstein, basically.
You betcha.
That's all right. Just, throw a Jacob's ladder behind it and you got the full effect.
Yeah,
Or an X-ray tube.
Jacob's ladder, and maybe an 8-track player on the side.
Maybe that was, maybe that was supposed. Go ahead.
No, sorry, go ahead.
Maybe that was supposed to be the boombox prototype.
Yeah.
There we go. Carries on your shoulder. It only weighs 38 pounds.
With chicken head controls.
That wire recorder does look like it's actually sold. I mean, that looks like a factory unit, but I've never seen one bare naked like that.
Well, it was ripped out of its original case and put in there.
Got it. Okay, that's more like it. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's a whole home-built deal there, with a repurposed case. It's a repurposed 45 RPM thing. It's a repurposed amplifier.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the whole thing was a giant home project.
And it all fits in a case with I'm sure the top closes down on it.
Yep.
I can see the bottom of the top. Well, somebody's very ingenious.
Just needing a bolt on each side. Cool.
It's pre-steampunk.
You
Oh, a
bolted
phone
that-
answering machine.
Yes, there you go. That's funny.
Is that serious? Is that what
I
that
think
is?
that's what it was intended to be.
I think that's part of the joke. I don't know.
Yeah.
but
Yeah, it's probably a joke. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about.
It should have a candlestick phone connected to it.
Look,
Yeah.
lower right. Oh, on the lower right. That looks that almost looks factory. What is
Fine.
it? Function. Oh, I see rewind. I think that's part of the tape.
It says, if you look at it, it says rewind, play, and answer on there.
Yeah.
Got it. Oh, there's your clue. Sorry.
Wow.
That's funny.
You don't throw your spare parts away, just cobble them together and turn them
Yeah.
into something weird.
Yeah.
The only kid in the block was it.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, more goodies.
Well, this was part of the donation sale.
Oh, yeah, we know that free table. Wow, that's a big free table.
Well, it wasn't free at this point, but it became free later on.
Oh, I see.
We had accumulated a lot of stuff over COVID, and I was slowly bringing it out to meets. And I actually borrowed a 16-foot enclosed trailer from my brother. And between my stuff, the stuff from my dad's estate, and club stuff, I covered the entire floor like 1.5 layers deep in boxes, and with one wall with consoles all strapped against it. And the good news is I went home much emptier because all this stuff left. One way or another.
I think I see a German right dead center here on the gray.
Wish I could do that with my storage area.
Got there. Yeah, that looks very German-esque, this one right here.
Yes, it does.
Not sure what that is. A little too far away for me to tell. But it looks like a lower midline radio, so.
Yeah, you know what it is. It's a nightmare.
Yeah, right. To say that in German, you know. It has a fancy name that's for
That's only maybe half. There's probably another picture coming up with more stuff.
Yeah.
That's more. That's behind where you were just looking. So if you were facing the other direction, this is behind you.
Oh, okay.
And then you can see there was 3 45 RPM players that we had.
Yeah.
And then behind the guy in the blue shirt's Bill Cohn.
Okay.
He's the guy that worked for Zenith. He also worked as a kid. He worked for Allied Radio.
Oh, okay.
And the guy to his left is Julian. I can't think of his last name. He lives down south. South meaning like Arkansas someplace.
Oh,
and then the next row of stuff is consoles. And obviously an empty cabinet there. But I'm going to guess that Dan took more pictures, so we'll probably see some more stuff.
There we go.
Speaking of which, there's the consoles. We even got a wound up.
Yeah, look at that.
That was in the main auction and nobody bid on it. The guy donated it to the club.
Oh, it's too bad. Wow, look at all this stuff.
You could turn that one into a manual Leslie for an organ.
There you go.
Wasn't there a guy giving away consoles out of the back of a truck?
Yeah, that was later on.
Yeah.
Because we moved up the sale a couple of hours and he didn't know it got moved up, so he showed up at the regular time.
Oh.
So he had 3 consoles that he gave away.
I spent a lot of time in front of that Tectonics oscilloscope with the rack all the way down the end. Tube. Actually it was kind of a hybrid.
No, that one's an all solid state one.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, it's narrower. It's not the wide format. Like the 545. It's even got a rectangular tube in it rather than a round tube.
Right. Oh, no kidding.
You mean like the 561s? I think that's what the model was.
It's in that category of numbers. Yeah. I think we got a whopping $5 for it.
Jeez, with the cart, that's a good deal.
With the cart. With the cart.
Oh man, I would have killed for that as a teenager.
Yeah, but now it's going to kill you trying to fix it.
Yeah,
yeah.
But just lifting it alone will kill you.
Battery sets up.
No, you need the tube ones to kill you carrying them. But
that's true. That's true. That one's not too bad, but still, they're pretty robustly built. They're no lightweight.
Well, I'm going to tell you guys, years ago, my friend and I, we had a little consulting company over in Warren, and it was in a room that was cordoned off in an old grain factory. And this was back in the 70s. And we had a lot of big old Tektronix scopes, 545s and 535s. And we used to, Raytheon had a nearby area where they used to put all their surplus. You can go in and buy it for almost nothing. But those scopes actually worked pretty good. We used them a lot. But the nice thing about them was that you'd come in the morning and you put them all on, and in about an hour and a half, the place be all heated up.
Yeah. No doubt. No doubt. Oh yeah, there we go. There's a panorama of lots of stuff.
Yow.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, there's that German radio. There's no question that is.
yeah, and of course this is after, we have what I call a reduced to the ridiculous sale at the end. We start out and everything is half price for things that are marked, and then we go, everything's $10, everything's $5, everything's $1, and everything's for free. So that was somewhere in that process.
And then you're almost a point where you have to, we'll pay you to take it.
Well, yeah, because getting rid of it costs you money, so you want to.
Yeah.
And
A lot
And
of stuff.
there was nothing left that I felt I had to preserve to take to the next meet, so.
Clear?
Does
my medicine.
Okay.
Well, hold on.
anybody have any of the Tektronix 7000 series scopes? And do you need any plugins?
I have a collection of scopes, but not that new.
Yeah, I've got a couple of them, a few of them, but I must have about 20 plugins. And
Oh, yeah. Have you got the plug-in that's got the miniature tubes, the new Vista and the transistor?
no, that'd be the 560 series. They had those.
The 560 series. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've got.
I'm talking about the 7000 series. They were all solid state.
That's much newer. Now the scope though, look on the right with the tag on it. That is
Yeah.
such a simple scope. I have one on display.
That looks like an old Heath kit.
It is, it's a first version Heath. It might be like the second version of that family of Heath kits.
Now, the one on the left looks like it might be a Sylvania or somebody like that.
That one, I believe, is a Sylvania.
Yeah.
We had a lot of that early Heathkit stuff. You can see right in the foreground, there was a Heathkit sensor checker.
Yep.
And I think it's kind of neat looking stuff, but it all takes space.
Oh, wait. I have no symptoms.
Yeah, that's an old ICO signal generator on your left there.
Say again?
Yeah, the blue one.
That blue panel.
No.
Matter of fact, I have one of those panels that's actually perfect. I've had it for a long time. I always figured somebody might need that someday.
I actually have that full ICO, the audio signal generator, the radio frequency signal generator,
Where
scope,
do you want the rain pants put?
and they all have the same blue panels.
Yeah, yeah. Sure, anything you want.
Hey, Tom,
Yeah,
that chassis on the left there, is that one that was for a wall unit of some kind that it came out of a building? There was a
yeah,
separate-
I believe that was the Fairbanks Morris.
Right.
Yeah, it had a single-ended 6L6 in it. And
Okay.
somewhere there's a wood panel that's about 3 feet long with a speaker in it that went with it.
I think Bob Anderson went home with that.
Yes, he did. It was on his channel on YouTube.
Yeah,
That was a neat set. I was kind of thinking that it might be fun to do something with it, but then I realized I have about 40 things that it might be fun to do something with that I haven't done anything with.
yeah.
It's impressive
old
the wide variety here.
How old is Bob Anderson?
Probably in his 50s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be the Bob Anderson I know.
Yeah, well, it's such an unusual name,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think he's
He's B. Anderson
active
TV.
on the Philco forum. He was a very big into TV.
He is very big into TV.
Yeah.
In fact, he got a mech
British TV.
electrostatic deflection set that we had donated to ARCI, and he made a donation and bought it, and did any number of episodes on it because he's having trouble with trying to get sinusoidal noise out of the picture tube, and determined it was just the way they designed the damn thing. And then he also realized that they had stole the wasn't Teletone, tell us somebody that made TVs in the early days. I can't remember the name of them. But anyway, the schematic is reasonably identical.
Very interesting.
Yes, I'm just spewing.
Where was this meet?
I'm sorry?
Where was this meet?
It was in Addison, Illinois, which is a western suburb of Chicago.
Okay.
Right down the street.
Yeah, that's right. I was getting at the pile of German radios to the right here, and I recognized something like this, the Grundit 4570. It's actually a nice sounding radio. especially if you get it ironed out, because it is stereo. So they actually are nice. They aesthetically, maybe not the nicest looking radio on the planet, but boy, they sound nice. They support 2 additional speakers, so you get 4 speakers out of this baby. Nice radio. Some good stuff there. See Grundig over there. Lots of goodies. There we go. Some more. Let me.
Yeah, we got the Victrola opened up there.
Oh yeah, that's right. And that's the one that was given away ultimately, eh? Or is that this?
No, we actually sold that, but probably not for a lot of money.
Neat.
I had
That
a
had
whole
some-
bunch of those old radio cabinets and I finally turned them into firewood. They were just,
Oh, that sounds
Nobody
like a
wanted
cuts
them.
down job.
yeah.
The Friday cuts down burning of the unsalvageable.
That had to have been a record amount of donation items at this particular meet.
It looks like
Well,
a
as I said, we had a lot of inventory built up. I mean,
Right.
ultimately, at least a third of that, maybe more, was stuff I brought in.
Yeah.
There's that same shot with the RCA set. and the
Oh
other-
yeah. Yeah.
And somebody say they moved that Allied set to the left. It's not in the same place as it was before.
So they
See
did.
see that metal detector in the front? That's a White's metal detector. I think I even have one of those.
Neat. It looks fairly, I mean, it looks like it's probably from what, the 60s, maybe?
Maybe the 70s, that model, maybe the 70s.
Okay.
Or
Neat.
maybe even the 80s, matter of fact, it could be, because
They didn't change it. up.
they made that style for a long time. I used to be a dealer for those things.
Oh, is that
And I
right?
repaired them too, and boy, let me tell you, those companies, when they give you the schematics to their metal detectors, they want you to lock them up and declare them secret.
Wow.
They don't want that information getting out. And boy, and you can't, if you're a Garrett dealer, you cannot be a White's dealer. And if you are a White's dealer, you cannot be a Garrett dealer because they don't trust you.
As they
Ah.
shouldn't.
Yeah.
Right.
So Greg, you probably looked at all these consoles, right?
I did. I can't remember all the makes, but that one, the third one in, looks a lot like that movie dial you bought in Madison, only it's not the movie dial version. Didn't that one have the
Well, it's
push?
certainly a
button on?
teledial with the tuning on the perimeter along with the push buttons. That
Yeah.
one I bought is all gummed up. I have to take all that apart. But that's
Yeah.
much bigger in diameter than that movie dial.
Yeah, I
version.
just remember that yours had the teledial around the movie dial. It kind
Yeah.
of looked similar to that cabinet.
I
And
saw
what is that, a
there's
Stuart
bunch of
Warner
chair
on the left?
slides on the end there.
Is that a Stuart Warner on the left?
I think so.
See if we can get close to them. Boy, it's hard to tell. Well,
Kind of looks like they're a logo.
yeah, you probably are right, Tom.
Well, but I may not be.
I got to send I think maximum. Whoops, sorry about that, folks.
I don't know. That could be like a,
Okay. No, that's not.
Maybe-
Radio Vogue,
Oh, yeah, that's one I don't recognize.
another
That's a
private
real-
label deal.
yeah.
Yeah.
It
Nice.
says the tell
looks nice.
time tuning. Tell time tuning.
Oh yeah, because it's got a clock function here too.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, okay, yeah.
What's in them except marketing in there? Marketing speak. I see some chair
Like a
sides
bunch
over
of
to the
chair
hard right.
sides on the end there.
Yeah, see that.
Well,
That was
that
an
one's a
NT.
Zenith. In fact,
Yeah.
they're both Zeniths.
Huh.
You can tell by the knobs.
Yeah.
I have a
Oh,
collection.
here's another big stash of, can you identify this radio?
Oh, yeah.
Now we got a Philco on the top left. And you got
Yep, it says Philco.
That
RCA
one,
is-
on the-
RCA
that
was
one on
back
the-
to us there.
Got the
Ben
gold.
Nixon.
that one on the lower left on the table, on the left and the bottom one, that's an RCA. I had that radio.
That's
Okay.
interesting with the sort of the V-shaped, like the chevron shaped grill.
Yeah.
The one next to that is
Okay.
an airline made by Wells
Emerson.
Gardner, 6-tube.
Oh,
Not bad.
yeah.
AM
Yeah,
only
I
set.
agree. I agree.
Got
That
a
I can
bag.
see the logo right here.
Yeah, and to the right of that, the top radio is a RCA portable with the little peanut tubes in it.
Okay.
Ah,
Yeah.
If you flip the lid open and it plays, we still have the one my grandfather bought new.
There's a Bendix.
Yeah,
526.
right here. Yep.
Little
Is
toaster.
that an Emerson that's in between the airline and the Bendix?
Yeah, I think that's an Emerson, yeah.
Yep. Some stuff below.
Rough but
Oh,
restorable.
Yeah.
More Philcos.
Philcos. Yep.
Silvertone there, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is Silvertone, right? I think.
I think this is
couple of projects.
the basket case department.
The parts department.
Yeah, more like it. More like it.
That one needs a little toner on the right.
Yeah, this needs a little polishing.
Yeah, little Howard, it'll look like brand new.
Yeah, exactly. A little hour look.
Last time I plugged it in.
Well, that's what happened when he plugged it in.
Yeah. They heard a pop.
Dude,
Yeah, he didn't realize the front popped off. Poof. Oh, okay, even more. Oh, and we actually get a little more.
Hey, we
close-up.
got that German set a little bit closer up.
yeah.
That is unusual. I haven't seen one of those before.
It's a nice GE down the end there on the left with the waterfall side. That's
Right. Yeah.
cool radio.
And in case you didn't see enough S38s, there's one in the middle on the top there.
Yeah.
Another one. They're
Right.
Right. Just to the right of it is a Philco. 39.
Another Philco and an RCA, cute little 5-tuber. There's a nice
Yeah.
dial when it's lit.
This one right here.
Regulate. Yep, little golden.
Yeah, I'd like to see one that looks. Yeah.
Not bad for what they are.
No, it's got a nice brass trim piece on top too.
50s vintage.
Really, I'm trying to. I have a-
Now, if you can zoom in on that German set, there's a piece of tape on the top.
Yeah, so I'm curious. I've never seen one in this particular.
Teletone.
Yeah, it's a
Teletone.
Teletone.
You made that call earlier. This is just a AM radio, I guess.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like.
It is.
That's really curious. I look at the dial face relative to the cutout. It's really unusual.
Looks like a miniature road desk.
Yeah. All sorts of good stuff here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we got another close up here of the same
Yeah.
stuff we looked at
Yeah.
a little
Refinished.
earlier. Yeah,
Model 20 Philco.
yeah.
Zenith pancake.
Well, here we go.
And there's Nipper.
There he is.
Zipper.
Up.
Hardworking
This-
people.
The
That's your
volunteers,
security detail.
Yeah.
Some nice pieces behind these guys.
Yeah, these guys are all in the way of their radios here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get them. At least they brought some coverage there. They got a little shade.
This is the
Right.
backside of the guy with the mint transos.
Oh yeah. He's got a bunch
Quite a
of them.
few.
Well, I was in his rec room and they just lined the wall. I mean, he had one of everything,
Wow.
and they were all perfect. And that's what he did. He'd spend a lot of time and they performed fabulously. I mean, he'd spend a lot of time aligning them and making sure they were all squared away.
Yeah, they're pretty tricky to align too.
All right.
Okay, we saw that stuff before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so giving a presentation.
Yeah, that's the guy talking with the software-defined radios.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember his name, so sorry about that. I wasn't in either of the talks. I mean, just because my life was what it is.
Sure.
Yeah, that's one of the problems of being in administration. You get to work these events as
Yeah.
opposed to always enjoy
No
them.
complaints, it's just that I have to rely on others for details. Now, what's interesting is we used to use a smaller room than this. And we'd have standing room only, so we went to the larger room for the presentations.
Oh,
And
okay.
of course, being hotter than blazes, I think they were probably better attended to some
Gotta get
degree.
the air
Sure.
conditioning.
Sure. AC.
Someone's got that military radio there.
Yeah, and that's I'll think of his name. He's one of our former presidents. He now lives in Michigan.
Does anybody know the value of those radios, those military handsets? In other words, if
Say
I would,
again, I didn't hear that.
does anybody know what something like that would cost these days as I'm looking for one?
I would look at eBay, but I'm going to guess it's a couple $100.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, they sell the repros. I don't know if you've seen those.
You know where you can find things like that is actually at Nearfest.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tom Pereira could probably give you a pretty good estimate because he has a pretty good collection of military gear. Mark.
No kidding.
Yeah, reach out to
Excellent.
Tom. He can definitely
reach
help you there.
I'll reach out.
So just trivia fact, that's Harry Blessey. And if you see the Midwest Classic Radio Net on his shirt there,
Mhm.
that's a group of people that collect ham gear that's all tube boat anchors.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Some of the last photos of some nice.
That little Philco there for the top of your fridge and another Belmont and
Yeah.
Emerson down the end with the Swiss cheese look. A
Okay.
Brewster.
With the
Yeah.
Like
You
this
see
one.
that?
I kind of like this
see-
one in the middle here. That's unusual.
Yeah.
The
You see that radio?
Base, that's so it could sit on the top of your fridge.
You see that radio way to the right there with the white grill in the front?
yeah, let me see if I can swing it over. Yeah.
Yeah, I have that grill. If anybody needs it, I have it.
I see. Now, is that
I used to have the radio, but it was, I think it got hit by lightning.
really?
Yeah, it was
And
bad.
all that was left was the grill?
That's all that I could salvage out of it was the
The
grill.
rest is you're like, wow, really? Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it got hit. I think they had an aerial on it and it got hit by lightning and it caught on fire. And the only thing that I could salvage out of that whole mess was the grill.
Wow.
I think, I don't know what, I think it might have been an Emerson.
Yeah,
I
those
think
are
you are
Emerson's.
correct. with the
Yeah.
round dial.
Yeah. Go
Well,
ahead,
looks
Nick.
like we're circled back to,
Well, we see Nick, but he's in his probably his own venue there.
Yeah. Well, it's just the other table.
Oh, perhaps, yeah.
The other side of his
What
setup.
do we have there? But a couple of no, that's a huge Nutridyne in the.
Wow,
wow.
that's a nice one too.
That's a beautiful radio, and he's got all the matching tube covers and everything.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the heck looks like a regen in front down below.
An interesting logo on the front of it.
If I can get up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's out of focus.
Yeah, I know, we're running out of,
Oh, there we go.
it says
Entertainaphone.
Entertainaphone.
Pioneer Wireless. New
Wireless, yeah, New York
Yeah.
City.
Never
Cool.
heard of it, never saw it, but I love the windows for looking at the filaments. It's
Hmm.
supposed to be low in the filament, so
Uh-huh.
you'd be able to see the tube filament top.
I think you got to get out there next time, Mark.
Oh, I can't. As I said to one gentleman online, I just don't have room.
No room at the end.
Yes,
If you don't
yes.
have room, we're all in trouble.
There's somebody there that wants the grill I have. They can have it. I'd be happy to send it to them.
That
What you could
Nutridyne
do
is
is you could throw your contact information in the chat window, like either your email or your
Yeah.
mobile number.
I can't, where is, oh, I see it. Here it is here. Let me see, who is it that wanted that?
There's
But they
Carl.
just, so it's BH.
Yep, here it is, I got it. Yeah, I will,
That'd be Bob
it's,
Harris.
Bob
It's gotta be Bob.
Harris.
yeah,
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
It's
I
the
was
only BH
interested
I
in the
know.
grill.
There you go. Sold to the man in Connecticut.
I put my email there. If you send me an email, we'll
I'm
work out the
sending you mine
details.
right now.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah,
Look
we
at
saw
that.
Carl before. This is a different angle of his stuff. So you can see he had a tube tester there and some other hi-fi gear.
Mhm.
Is that a mixer board? That second one over, aluminum?
No, that's a tube tester.
Ah,
Yeah.
very good.
He builds a lot of amplifiers.
I see a lot of people building amps now on eBay. They want 3 or 4 grand for them. And, you know, I don't know, it didn't look like it was worth it.
It probably isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
at these
everything he's
consoles.
got is commercial. So here's the other side of that row of consoles we looked at before.
Yeah.
Look at those, some of those pieces. Some nice looking
Silver
pieces.
tone RCA. Yeah.
Check out the little 3 dialer that's in the low desk, about the middle of that picture. If you go to the left, it's got a built-in speaker,
Yeah,
and that looks like fan install or some name like that. The TRF with a built-in horn.
Interesting.
And, oh, it's a cool set, but I wouldn't have room for it.
Even though you
so is
want it.
that to the right? So the first console to the there I can't identify. Is that a
I
Zenith
think
or
it's
is
a
that something
silver
else?
tone.
Silver tone.
This
That's
one
the
here, or
RCA. Yeah. The one on the
Yeah,
left. Yep.
yeah. The next one over, I think, is an RCA, right?
Right. That might be a pilot, the third one in.
The one with the fancy slide rule dial.
Yeah, they usually have those big slide rule dials, didn't they, pilot?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know what the one on the right is.
Yeah.
yeah, it's really that's unusual. It's really an unusual looking cabinet. Good looking consoles here. One is quite the, oh, you know what? That's just a different console. I thought that was part of the same one. It's not. It's just a smaller.
Yeah, I had them all back to back.
Yeah, because they confused it. Wow, that's a weird looking cabinet shape. That would explain it.
Yeah.
And that is it. And we're just a couple of minutes after 9 o'clock.
All right, very
Well,
nice.
Tom, this was great. We really
I'm
appreciate
glad.
it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, guys.
Yes.
You're welcome
great
anytime.
little show.
We enjoyed and
Well,
like I said,
send me the notices when you're doing them, and
yeah, I can add you to it. You don't
Yeah.
mind a little extra clutter in the email? You're always welcome. And plus, like I said, you are our first official returning guest. So, so now it makes you a regular. But yeah, really appreciate, I'll stop sharing. Really appreciate your time and your generosity of your time here to tell us about Radio Fest. It just always inspires us to try to get ourselves out there and check it out one day.
well, it seems like the benchmark meet is Kutztown.
Yeah,
And
right.
you know,
Which-
back in the day, you know, people would do the circuit of all the big meets in the Midwest, and you know, we had people coming in from Japan and all kinds of places. Because they do Minnesota, they do Indiana, Michigan, and then go to New York and do the AWA meet when they used to have a huge flea market.
Yeah,
And Michigan has 2 big meets a year, and that's all they have. I'm not saying that not to minimize it. I'm just saying we have every other month local meets, and then we have Radio Fest as one of them. So there's different models going on in different places.
yeah, no, it's, I even have to get out the Kutztown one of these years, but we do usually, during one of our meetings, we usually cover Kutztown because we have enough members, in our club who usually go. So between the photos, the reports, and we have Bob Bennett, who's in the NJRC and the Delaware club, usually takes a video, which he posts on YouTube. We usually play that as well because he just takes like a 15-20 minute video. So so it's usually worth a look as well. So yeah, Tom, no, we really appreciate your time, and of course, everybody, thank you for attending. It was a fun discussion with some interesting factoids. But I always learn something out of these meetings. Because invariably, someone gives some great detail about something that is subtle. Plus, we had a little transaction occur at the same time. So got a radio with a radio that was executed by nature. Anyway, guys, please do have a great weekend. And Tom, many thanks again. And hopefully we'll see you again in one of our Zoom meetings. And you guys will see you in a couple of weeks. And we're going to see you at the next meeting, which will be just before our swap meet. We'll see people at the swap meet in Brookline.
All right.
All right, everybody. Take care,
All
guys.
right.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, John.
Nice.
You bet. Thanks.